Hello, ladies. This is Dr. Melissa Rich. Welcome to another episode of Taking Care of Your Temple podcast. This episode I have called very originally To Sleep, Perchance to Dream. Yes, I stole it from Shakespeare, from Hamlet, to be completely accurate. But we will be talking about sleep in this episode. This is the second of a two-parter series on sleeping. So, the objective, I'm going to do my little intro as I always do. The objective of this podcast is to help women connect with God on a regular, ongoing basis, like daily, and to use His grace, power, and strength to improve their physical, emotional, mental, spiritual well-being. We do this by using four principles. The first one is keeping our focus on God, keeping our eyes on Him, keep getting ourselves back on track, not if, but when we get off course, because I promise it will happen on a regular basis. Next, acknowledging that we are not enough on our own. We are not strong enough, smart enough, quick enough, rich enough, pretty enough, whatever it is, to get things done well. We need His help. So ask Him for it. He's always happy to give it. Next is reminding ourselves it's about progress, not about perfection. Thank goodness. If we had to do everything perfectly before it counted, we would all be in very serious trouble, me especially. Next is work on consciously changing our thoughts or the messages that we give ourselves. Research is showing more and more those messages are hugely important. What we say to ourselves on a regular basis matters. And so if we are telling ourselves negative, toxic messages, we're not going to be doing very well. If we are always beating ourselves up, not a good thing. We need to learn to see ourselves the way God sees us. Okay, so I'm going to start this off with a prayer, as I always do. Lord, I just thank you so much for the opportunity to do this podcast. Lord, sleep is such an important topic. So many of us struggle with this. I know I struggle with it periodically. I know there are people listening who struggle with it on a regular basis. And I'm just asking, Lord, that you will use the message that I have here to help all of us do better. Thank you for loving us, Lord. Amen. Okay. My goal is to do this podcast on a weekly basis, and doing pretty well because we're now at number 17. Yay. Sometimes I will have guests with me. I'm actually recording another episode later on today where I will have a guest, but this one is going to be just me, you lucky people. So I want to talk a little bit about sleep disorders. This is something that I think everybody can relate to, because even if you normally sleep well, I don't know of anyone who has never had a sleepless night. We all get this at some point or another. More than 20% of the general adult population of the US and Canada report experiencing insomnia. 62% of adults around the world say they don't sleep as well as they would like to. As many as 67% of adults report sleep disturbances at least once every night. In other words, something wakes them up. They're asleep, they wake up, and they may have trouble going back to sleep again. 44% of adults around the world say that the quality of their sleep has gotten worse over the past 5 years. The article that I got this from didn't say it, but I suspect that COVID played a big part in that. I think COVID messed up so many people emotionally as well as physically. And I think that was probably a big factor in that number. Okay. National sleep statistics for the US. The prevalence of sleep disorders in the US is so high that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, has said insufficient sleep is a public health problem. That's really sad. So some national statistics on sleep loss in the US. This number blows me away. 50 to 70 million adults in the US are affected by a sleep disorder. That is mind-boggling. 25 million adults in the US have obstructive sleep apnea. And that is where people stop breathing when they fall asleep, and then they wake up just gasping for breath because they've stopped breathing. So that is a very serious issue. Every year, 30 to 40% of adults in the US report symptoms of insomnia at some point. 1 in 3 US adults report snoring. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. 1 in 3 US adults regularly don't get enough sleep, And now 48% of Americans report snoring during the night. And snoring, we will talk about this more, but it can affect them and it can affect their partner if they have one. This one blows me away. And I will say I'm going to pick on this one a bit because I don't have this issue. 88% of American adults reportedly lose sleep due to binge watching something on TV. Guys, come on. This one is fixable. Turn off the TV, go to bed. I mean, seriously. I this is not one that I do. I mean, if I start watching TV and I'm tired, I fall asleep. So I might as well get up and go to bed. Okay. So sleep stats by sex. Men and women each have their own issues with sleeping. One sleep survey found that 30% of respondents reported they would like to get a sleep divorce. What they meant by that is they would like to sleep separately from their partner. Okay, I can totally relate to this one. When Ed and I got married, I found out, was a horrible sleeper, had always been his entire life. In fact, his family would tell stories about he was 2 or 3 years old. They would wake up the next morning and find him asleep under a coffee table because he just would get up and wander around the house because he couldn't sleep. So they learned very early to make sure all the doors were locked so he couldn't get out. But yeah, he would just walk around till he collapsed somewhere and then he would fall asleep. Well, he could not sleep unless there was a TV that was on pretty loudly. I could not sleep unless the TV was off. And y'all, there is no middle ground for this one. You can't like have half of a TV. So we went back and forth on it and finally settled on he got the TV in the bedroom and I slept in another room because I couldn't sleep with the TV on. Plus the fact, bless his heart, he had sleep apnea. He had restless leg syndrome. He just was up and down. He would be in the bed. He would lay down on the floor. He would sit in a chair because he just couldn't get comfortable. He was antsy. I mean, if I could even fall asleep, I was waking up every few minutes because he kept doing stuff. So he was not thrilled about me sleeping in another room. But I said, look, I'm sorry. I have to get some sleep and I cannot sleep in the room with you. So fortunately, at that time, we had a 3-bedroom house and our boys were young. They were sharing a room. We had another room. We used it as like an office or a study that had a futon in it. And it would unfold into like a full-size bed. I slept on there every night. And I could close the door and I could sleep. So I totally sympathize with this because been there, done that. The lifetime risk of getting insomnia is probably up to 40% higher for women than for men, sadly. Women take longer to fall asleep. They sleep for shorter periods, and they tend to feel more tired than men do when they wake up. I love this one. Up to 94% of pregnant women report experiencing sleep disturbances during pregnancy. This is no big surprise. I mean, if y'all have ever been pregnant, which I was twice, you've got this baby kicking. I remember when my sister Susie was pregnant, I think, with my nephew, Matthew. He was literally at times kicking so hard, her ribs would be bruised. I mean, that's really kicking pretty hard. You can't go to sleep during that. Having to get up to use the bathroom, or later on in the pregnancy, just experiencing there is no comfortable position to lie in. So it's really not surprising that pregnant women have sleep issues. About 46% of women report having sleep problems almost every night. Some of them are due to their husbands. To be fair, some husbands have sleep issues due to their wives. I mean, if you sleep with somebody in the same room, that is going to happen. The sleep disorder restless leg syndrome is more common among women than men. So my little story about that. It's probably 20 years ago when we were in Oklahoma. I went to a women's retreat with my church, Henderson Hills Baptist, and we got to wherever it was, somewhere by a lake, I think, and they had those of us who didn't have a roommate, they just assigned us somebody. So they assigned me this woman, very nice, and as we were talking, she said, I just really want to apologize because I snore and I have restless leg syndrome, and she listed some other things. I didn't know at that point what any of those things were, except the snoring. I knew what that was, and I was like, okay, I mean, what can I do at that point? I was like, okay, fine, we'll work it out. And we were sleeping in the same bed. It was a king size bed. I did not sleep at all that night. She was not kidding. She was snoring. She was kicking her legs all the time, all throughout the night. I mean, that was like the worst night's sleep ever that I have ever had. And I felt very sorry for her husband. So I totally get that. About 57% of men and 40% of women snore. We grew up with my dad being a huge snorer. I look back and I don't know how my mom did it. I don't know how she slept with him because he literally, you could hear him throughout the whole house. So one year, Ed and I had just started dating, and we went as a family to my grandfather, Pop's, in Louisiana. He had a cabin there, and we did Thanksgiving there. So it was a small cabin, and people were sleeping in their cars because we just, there weren't that many bedrooms. So my dad had gone to sleep early, went into one of the bedrooms, and the rest of us are sitting out in the living room talking. And you can just hear Dad in the background snoring because, again, small cabin, not very well insulated. So Ed had been outside doing something. He came back in and he goes, "What's that noise?" And we said, "What noise?" "That noise." And we're like, oh, that's Dad. He's snoring. "No, really, come on, what is that?" And he was getting mad at us because he really thought it was a chainsaw or something. We finally literally had to take him to the bedroom, open the door, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe anybody snores that loudly and doesn't wake themselves up." And I said, "Well, he does that sometimes." But yeah, snoring can be a real issue. So, what causes sleep disorders? Well, some of them you have absolutely no control over. Sorry. One is genetic risk factors. If you were silly enough to be born into a family with sleep disorders, guess what? You probably are going to have them too. Just how it is. And again, not much you can do at this point. Another one is anatomy. I didn't know this until I started researching this podcast. If you have narrow oral nasal passages, that's like I think it's your nose and your mouth, or a large neck circumference, or a certain different shapes of your jaw and size of that can all affect how you sleep. And really, barring plastic surgery, what are you going to do other than learn some tricks, which I'll get to later, that hopefully will help you? Anatomy is also a risk factor for things such as sleep apnea. A big risk factor, anatomical one, is increased body weight. I will say, when I was heavier, again, I'm about 70 pounds lighter than I was then, I snored. Not all the time, but I did some. Snoring is affected directly by weight. A lot of these sleep issues are affected directly by weight. That is one thing you can do that will help get you healthier and will help you sleep better. I sleep much better now than I did when I was heavier. So that is something to work on. And I have a series on, it was a 2 or 3 part on weight loss. So y'all can listen to that and maybe that will help. Some other factors: having poor lifestyle habits, having anxiety, stress, consuming alcohol or tobacco before bedtime, being exposed to a lot of LED light. It's that blue light in devices, phones, tablets, etc. All of these can cause sleep disorders to happen. So do not let your kids take devices into the room at night, okay? I have talked to so many parents who have said, I really can't believe this happens, but that their kids are waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning because their friends are texting them. And they wake up because their phone goes off and they're texting them back at 2 in the morning. And then, of course, they're tired the next day. And I'm looking at my friend going, why do they have their phone in the bedroom? Take it away from them. They don't need that phone at night. You're right there. If they need something, they can go get you. They do not need to be calling or texting their friends at 2 or 3 in the morning. So that is one that can be easily preventable. And they really need to get into the habit of not taking those devices in the room, or if they are in the room, because I have people say, well, I use it as my alarm clock. Okay, go to Walmart, spend $10 and get just a little digital alarm clock with a red light, not the blue lights. The blue lights will keep you up. You really don't want your phone in the bedroom if at all possible. If you have to have it in, like if you have to check it periodically, turn it off. I mean, the volume off. Okay. And then there are different medical conditions that can cause you to have issues with sleep. Things like heartburn, diabetes, depression, PTSD, those can keep you up at night. Also, certain medications, one of their side effects can be sleeplessness. So, if you have recently started taking a new medication and you're finding that you're having trouble sleeping, which you didn't have before, do some research, get online and see if whatever your medication is, if one of the side effects can be wakefulness or sleeplessness. If it is, contact your doctor. Explain to them, look, I know you gave me this medication for heartburn or for diarrhea or whatever it is, but it's keeping me up at night. Is there another med that will do the same thing without the wakefulness? Just ask. A lot of times there is. Okay, so some ways to improve sleep. I talked last time about how good sleep habits are sometimes referred to as sleep hygiene. Okay, some habits that can help you improve your sleep health. I kind of don't know if I agree with all of this one, but a lot of experts say it, and that is if you don't fall asleep after 20 minutes, get out of bed. I do agree with this part. If you're going to get out of bed, go do a quiet activity without a lot of bright light exposure. You really don't want to get back on your electronics. So read a book, do a jigsaw puzzle, maybe do a yoga breathing technique, whatever it is. Don't turn on all the lights and really wake up your brain. Establish a relaxing bedtime routine. This can be reading a book, listening to some music, taking a warm bath or shower, having a cup of chamomile tea, walking around outside, sitting on your back porch, listening to the nature sounds. Whatever it is, when you have that routine and then you start that routine for that evening, your brain says, oh, yeah, time to chill. We're getting ready for bedtime. It's time to relax. You are training your brain to get into the habit of ready for sleep. So that can be helpful. Okay. In the last episode, I talked about don't sleep with children in your bed, which I know is going to get me some flack. Here's another one that probably will. Don't sleep with animals in your bed either. Okay. I know. I had 3 dogs. I now have 2. Had to put one down. I love my dogs. One of them sleeps in my room. The other sleeps out in the hallway. But he does not sleep in my bed. The only reason Chewy sleeps in my room with the door closed is this. My other 2 dogs that I've had, I have a doggy door in my living room and a fenced-in yard. So if they need to get up during the night and go do their business, they go do their business. They come back inside. They go back to sleep. Chewy, however, is a different story. If he goes out at 2 o'clock in the morning and smells a possum or a rabbit or a squirrel, which we apparently have many of in our backyard, he will start barking hysterically. He won't stop until I go out and get him and bring him inside. So he sleeps in my room with the door closed. Occasionally he will have to go out and do his business. So he'll bark. I let him out and then I go get him. I give him a few minutes and then I go get him and bring him back inside because I've learned if I leave him out, that's what he's going to do. So he does sleep in my room for that reason. He does not sleep in my bed. Every now and then he will kind of, Mama, I would just cuddle up and be really nice and still. No, he's not sleeping in my bed. I want to increase my chances of getting a good night's sleep as much as possible and having an animal who can be wiggly and start licking or scratching himself. No, that is not going to be helpful. Get into the habit of using your bed only for sleep and sex. Try to not use your bedroom as an office. Okay. I know with so many people working from home nowadays, sometimes that is the only space you have. I get it. And if you have to do that, at least, if you have a laptop, close your laptop when you're done, or put a cover over your desk or something to kind of signify that work is over, it's done. Now it's relaxation time, because you don't want to start associating your bedroom or your bed with work. Take a warm bath or a shower before bedtime. Kind of talked about that. Have some effective tools for managing stress and anxiety. Because if you go to bed and you're just like, and you're worried and scared, and it's going to affect your sleep. So have things that you can use to calm you down. I have a 3-part episode on anxiety. Okay. Have a low level nightlight in your bathroom so that if you have to get up during the night, you won't wake up completely. I do exactly that. And I have a very small, kind of a dim flashlight that I keep on my bedside table so that when I get up to use the bathroom, if I have to, I don't step on a dog as I'm walking to the bathroom, because I've done that before. And then that wakes everybody up. That's not good. If you wake up during the night, do not check your phone. Don't do it. It stimulates your brain. So I have a phone that I leave in my bathroom, which is attached to my bedroom, and it's charging while I sleep. In the past, when I first started doing that, I would get up to use the bathroom and I would check my phone, because at that time, my dad was still alive. He was in his late 80s. My sister and her family are in Florida. My other son is in Oklahoma. So I would just check to see if there were any text messages or voice messages from family, something that I needed to know about. The problem was, when I did that, I got careless and let me check what the weather's going to be like for tomorrow. Let's see what Facebook is doing while I'm using the bathroom. Well, then I was completely and totally awake. So I have made myself stop that. I do still check my phone when I go to the bathroom, just glance at it really quickly. Okay, no text, no voicemails. Good. Put it back and then do my business and go back to bed. So don't get on your phone during the middle of the night. It is not good. Something that can be very helpful is cutting back on sugar, especially late in the day, because it can wake you up. You can just be really hyper. The other thing that sugar does, and this is something I've learned lately, it causes inflammation in your body, which can cause pain, which can keep you awake. So be aware of how much sugar you're eating. It can be a factor. Try some meditation and relaxation techniques. I don't do meditation. I've never been able to. My mind just squirrels around too much. But relaxation, deep breathing, that type of thing I can do. And there's a bunch of those on YouTube. Just get on YouTube and do a search for relaxation techniques and you'll find stuff. Try to avoid consuming caffeine in the afternoon or the evening. So I drink water all day. When I get home, I switch to peppermint iced herbal tea. It has no caffeine in it, and I love it. And I drink that the rest of the evening until bedtime. Well, sometimes when I go out to eat for dinner and I order iced tea, I forget, oh yeah, this isn't herbal. And I drink several glasses. And then I get home and that night I'm wide awake. I'm thinking, why am I not sleeping? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I had that iced tea that was regular iced tea with caffeine. So just be aware of things like that, because they can also affect you. Reduce your fluid intake before bedtime, because I drink fluids all day. I tend to have dry mouth, which means I have to get up at least once to go to the bathroom, sometimes twice. That's just a factor, but it is still, drinking fluids is still healthy. So I keep doing it. Okay, so a couple of methods that I found that may be helpful for you. One is called the military sleep method. This is from a book called Relax and Win Championship Performance. This was something that was developed by the Army to help soldiers sleep better. And they say that after 6 weeks, this works with 96% of the people who try the technique. So here's what you do. You're in bed. First, you relax your face. Start with your forehead, your eyes, your cheek, your jaw, and focus on your breathing while you're relaxing different parts of your face. Then you drop your shoulders as low as you can, release tension, keep your arms loose at your side, and imagine there's this warm sensation traveling down from the top of your head all the way down to your fingertips. Have it go down one arm, then the other arm. Relax each session as you go and keep your breathing slow and steady. Take a deep breath. Relax your chest. Slowly inhale and exhale, moving your stomach up and down, or moving down to your stomach. Relax each leg in turn. Again, imagine that warm sensation moving down both of your legs one at a time. Clear your mind of any stresses. And they recommend one of two things. Either imagine that you are lying in a canoe on a very calm, quiet lake with nothing but clear blue sky above you, or picture or imagine yourself lying in a black velvet hammock in a pitch black room. And then you repeat these words to yourself. If you start getting distracted, just say, don't think, don't think, Don't think. And you don't have to say them out loud. You can say them to yourself for about 10 seconds. Basically, what this is, ladies, is what's called a progressive muscle relaxation. I use this in hypnosis all the time. I start relaxing people from the top of their head all the way down to their toes. That's what this is. It works. It's effective. So this could be a good one. Another technique is called cognitive shuffling. This is recommended, or this was created by cognitive scientist Luc Baudon, maybe. Sorry, Luke. And the goal is to imitate the way that children fall asleep by filling your brain with nonsense. It's a way to switch off anxiety, stress, and worry. So they recommend you are in bed. Think of a random emotionally neutral word with at least 5 letters. He gives bedtime as an example. Start to spell out the word in your mind. And as you go through each letter, think of as many words that start with that letter as you can. So if you went with bedtime, you might think of bear for a B. Picture the bear, imagine it, think about it for a while, then release that image and go to the next letter. And then you keep coming back through them, doing the images. Repeat this as many times as you need to for each letter. And if you find yourself at a loss, if you can't think of any more images for that letter, skip it and go to the next letter. The trick, and this is key, is to ensure that you are imagining things that don't have any emotional attachment to them. They are not things that you're worried about, because if you start thinking about your presentation at work the next day, or the fact that your mom has to go to the doctor and it could be cancer, those things have emotional attachment. You are going to be worried. So these things are emotionally neutral. I haven't tried this, but I like it. It makes sense. Okay, so some tools that can be used to help you sleep better. The first one, and a lot of you have heard of it, and some of you probably have it, is a weighted blanket. I had not really ever seen one before, but a couple of years ago, one of my clients said, and actually she asked me before we even scheduled the first one, she said, I have this weighted blanket that I use that really calms me down. Can I bring it with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I saw what it was. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I ended up some time ago ordering one for myself. It is a very cozy feeling. It's like lying in a hug. So I recommend, though, if you do it, find a store near you that carries them so you can go and try them out. Because here's my little story. Got online, found a place that had weighted blankets, and they had this little assessment that you could take to see what weight you needed, because they come in different weights. So I did the little assessment as best I could, picked the weight, got the blanket, and then it arrived. And I'm like, great. So I get in bed that night, I pull it over me, and I'm lying there and realize I can't move. The thing was so heavy. I'm not kidding. I felt like Goldilocks. This one is too heavy. It took everything I had to get that blanket off of me, to get out from under it. It was just too heavy. Okay, sent that one back, exchanged it, got a lighter one. This one was perfect. And from my shoulders on down, it felt fabulous. It was amazing. However, it didn't work for me. And here's why. I have this thing when I'm sleeping, even mostly during the summer, I don't like my ears to be exposed. I don't like my ears to be cold. So during the winter, I just get a blanket, scrunch it up, pull it up on either side of my ears, or just on one side if I'm lying on my side, and it's all good. I can't do that with a weighted blanket. It doesn't scrunch. It's too heavy and too thick. I tried everything I could think of because, again, I loved how it felt from my shoulders on down. So if you don't have an issue with, cold ears or cold face, a weighted blanket may be a really good way for you to go. But I do recommend, if possible, seeing if a friend of yours has one, have it lay on it or lay under it for a while to kind of get an idea of what kind of weight you need, because that is going to make a difference. So I found something called it's a Hoom band. I guess that's how you pronounce it, HOOM band. They're wireless headphones. They kind of strap around your forehead. It looks like with Velcro. And they have these tracks. They range from 25 to 60 minutes. You pick the tracks. They will play. They'll keep looping around all night long to help you drift to sleep. Haven't tried that, but it sounds pretty cool. I like it. I like the idea of it. The another thing that you can try is a smart mattress. Do y'all know Now, you can get mattresses that will do just about anything for you. They will adjust the firmness. They will come up or down. They will track your sleep. They'll tell you what kind of sleep you're getting. They'll have suggestions for better sleep. So if you need to replace your mattress anyway and sleep is an issue for you, look into a smart mattress. I mean, what can it hurt? Next is a weighted eye mask. We all know what the eye masks are. These are weighted, and supposedly they help you relax faster, sleep better. They can also help with migraines, which is a plus, or probably just any kind of headache. Next is essential oils, which I use all the time. I have lavender in my diffuser on a bedside table almost every night, unless I forget. And and it does help me sleep. Some other ones that are relaxing and helpful for sleep are vanilla, rose and geranium, jasmine, and citrus. Any of those can help you drift off to sleep quicker and easier. Something I found that I haven't tried yet because I just found it is called a pillow spray. And they claim it is a natural aromatherapeutic super blend of lavender, chamomile, and vetiver that calms you down, soothes you to sleep. You just spritz it on your pillow before you sleep. Okay, so all I know is just that. I haven't researched it at all. If you find something like that, I strongly recommend that you research and see what is in the spray. You don't want any chemicals on your pillow because you're going to absorb it through your skin and you're going to be breathing it in. So make sure, and I don't think this was, but again, I just didn't have time to check into it. So just check. A white noise machine or a white noise app on your phone. I have used white noise machines for probably over 20 years. It's a little round machine, and you just turn the switch, and it makes a noise. It's like a background noise, like a fan, kind of a loud fan. With most of them, you can adjust the intensity, the loudness of it. And I sleep with one every night. When my boys were at home, they slept with one. I don't know if they still do. David, for a while, slept with two in his room because outside of his room was this tree that had these birds on it, really loud birds. I mean, and I couldn't figure out why he was needing two machines until I went into his room one night and I was like, okay, you're right. You need another one. So we got him another one. It was really, really loud. But the white noise machines are very soothing. I always take one with me when I travel. And I've not tried the app because I just have the machine. And again, I don't like having my phone in my bedroom at night. Okay, another one is called Dream Pad Pillows. I found this on Shark Tank several years ago. Loved it. But there is a but coming up. It plays this kind of subliminal, soothing background music. And it puts you right to sleep. It's great. It's built into the pillow. My problem was the pillows were either too thick or too flat. I couldn't find one that was a happy medium. I need to check back because I'm wondering if they would have the mechanism that I could just put in my pillow myself or just put on my bed. That would be amazing. But yeah, the music was great. Okay, something old school. Actually, this is old school and some other things. Blackout curtains or blackout shades. We are all, I think, more sensitive to light when we're sleeping than we realize. And so if you have a room that's too light, you're probably going to have trouble going to sleep. You can get blackout shades that pull down and completely block everything out. You can also get blackout curtains. Those can be very helpful. Next was something called, I thought this was intriguing too, a glow light by a company called Casper. It's a light that helps us wind down naturally for sleep. At bedtime, this warm light starts dimming to lull you to sleep. And in the morning, the soft light gradually gets brighter to help you wake up. Sounds pretty cool. Two more old school things. One is a crossword puzzle or just a real book, not a electronic one. And the other one is an e-reader, but with adjustable brightness settings that you dim so that it's not really light for you. So any of those things can be helpful. Okay, so as Christians, is there anything that we can do to help us sleep better? Yes, there is. One of the things we need to be aware of is that spiritual warfare is going on around us. Satan has lost the war with us because we are now Christians. We belong to God. However, he is still fighting a lot of battles. He doesn't want us, ladies, to be happy, productive, to be bringing other people to Christ. That is like the last thing that he wants. He wants us to be doubtful, afraid, worried, stressed, depressed, anxious, on and on and on. One way to do that is to attack our physical health, to have us not sleep well. And I can really attest to that because I've been working on this topic and recording it for the last 2 or 3 days. I have not slept well any night since I started doing this. I don't think it's a coincidence. Now, one of the things that I do is I try to grab little naps during the day. I think I talked about this before, just a 15 or 20-minute nap in one of my recliners, and it really is helpful. And then I just go to bed early the next night. I fully expect once I get this one done, I'll be sleeping well again. But it happens. Okay. When we can't sleep, I strongly recommend the PPS method. This is just my little thing that I came up with. Prayer, praise, scripture, PPS. So prayer. If you can't sleep, ask God to help you sleep. Ask him to just calm your mind, slow down your heart rate, lessen your anxiety, whatever it is, so that you can drift off and get some sleep. Also, while you're awake, go ahead and use the time. Pray for other things as well. Pray for things that are coming up for you in work, things that family members have coming up. When I really can't sleep, I tend to, I intercede for other people, but I also pray about world issues. The past several weeks, anytime I couldn't sleep, I've been praying, past several months, about the war in Ukraine and then the earthquakes that happened in Turkey and Syria, that the people who are there will get help, that God will bless the workers who are there trying to help, because this is going to be very traumatic for them. So I use that time to pray, and that can be helpful. Okay, praise. Instead of being stressed and afraid and worried, start thanking God for all of his blessings, for all of the good things in your life. And I promise you, they are there. Remind yourself that he has come through for you in the past, and he is going to do it again. He loves you. He cares about you. You are his precious child. He loves you. So thank him for that. One of the things that you can do is sing some praise and worship songs. Now, if you share a bedroom with someone, do that softly or go to another room, but really hone in on praise, because a lot of times the reason we can't sleep is due to anxiety. Praise cancels out anxiety. I've done this a lot. Then scripture. Have some scripture verses ready, maybe jotted down somewhere, and then repeat them to yourself, or just read them with a small flashlight that's not too bright. Y'all probably know who Beth Moore is. I know most of you have heard of her. Maybe you've read some of her books or done some of her Bible studies. I have been fortunate enough in the past a couple of times to hear her speak in person. She is one of the few people who I could listen to for hours and not get bored. And I do not say that about very many people, but she is one of them. So years ago, she was speaking about some type of this difficult time in her life she was going through, where there was a lot of anxiety. She'd had some trauma, and she was not sleeping well. So what she did is she wrote up Bible verses on note cards. She placed them on her chest, and she had to sleep with the light on because she was just too freaked out to be in the dark. So she would, kind of start going to sleep. And then almost always after a few minutes, she would wake up just really scared and freaked out. And so she would grab the note cards and she would start reading the Bible verses. Read the verse, read the verse, read the verse, until she calmed herself down and was able to go back to sleep again. And then it would repeat. And she did that for several months before she started to be able to sleep normally again. So there is nothing wrong with that. That is a great way to keep God's word close to you and to reassure you. So if you need some verses to help you sleep, this will be in the Facebook. I can't remember if it's a group or a page because I have one of each. Anyway, it's the one that has files in it. Proverbs 3:24. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Isn't that great? Love that. John 14:27. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. That doesn't speak directly to sleep, but it does speak about worry, fear, and anxiety, which tend to keep us awake. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given me a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love and of power and of sound mind, to live each day and glorify his name. Same thing, not directly related to sleep, but if you have all of these things, spirit of love, power, and sound mind, you are going to do better when you sleep. Psalm 127:2, for he gives to his beloved sleep. Love it. Psalm 56:3, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you. I have claimed this one many times over the years because I've been afraid for a lot of different things. Psalm 4:8, I will lie down and sleep in peace, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. Isn't that great? Last one, Philippians 4:6 and 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. If we have God's peace, we are going to be able to sleep better. Okay, so I want to sum up the whole sleep part by saying, ladies, if insomnia is chronic, get some help. Talk to your doctor. Do some research online. Find a sleep clinic near you and make an appointment. Be proactive. God designed us to need sleep. So do what you can to be sure that you get some on a regular basis. Okay. Fun fact about Waco. Waco has something called Homestead Heritage, which is a very cool place to visit. It's an agrarian and craft-based intentional Christian community. It's in North Waco. They stress simplicity, sustainability, self-sufficiency, cooperation, service, and quality craftsmanship. It also strives to live in peaceful coexistence with the land, with other people, and with other faiths. They have a 550-acre farm, and those are made up of a lot of small family homesteads. They have farms with draft animals, and they raise their own staple crops. These crops include wheat, oats, barley, corn, potatoes, sweet sorghum, pinto beans, and other fruits and vegetables. They mill their own grain. I think this is so cool. In the community with a water wheel run grist mill, and it's housed in a historic 250-year-old hand-hewn timber-framed mill. How cool is that? It holds an annual sorghum festival. They have lots of different events over the year. They harvest cane and process it into a sweet syrup through the mule-driven sorghum mill. I've been up there, but I haven't seen that part. Whatever farm or ranch-raised produce the community doesn't use, they sell it or they give it away. So I think that's pretty cool. So if y'all are ever in Waco, you need to go to Homestead Heritage. All right, that is it for this episode. And in closing, as always, along with this podcast and Waco Hypnosis Center, I am available for public speaking. If you are interested in having me for an event, you can contact me through my website, www.drmelissarich.com, or you can email me at info@drmelissarich.com. Ladies, if you enjoy this podcast, or gentlemen, I know I have some gentlemen listening too, I would love for you to do one of the following or all of them for me. Follow my podcast. Write me a review saying how awesome and amazing this podcast was. Share an episode. I'm trying to build up my audience. Social media marketing is not my best thing, and I know for some of you, it is like breathing. So I would love any help that you can give. Y'all have a great day. Hope to see you back next week. Bye.